ahead and pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so thank you for having Grace with us. We accidentally forgot to put public comment on non-agenda items. We do want public comment, so we will open the floor to that now. We'll give you 3 minutes. Make sure that whatever it is you talk about, if you think it even might be slightly related to something in our agenda, hold it for that so we can actually talk back to you. During this time, the board will not be able to communicate with you. So, anyone would like to public comment? Now's your time.
I just have one quick thing. I noticed on the school website that the last minutes posted was in February. So March's, April's, May's are not on the website. So that would be good for people to be able to look at those.
Absolutely, thank you so much. Okay, we will move on to unfinished business. So right now, we'll have consideration and possible action to contract with Harmony Educational Services. I will entertain a motion for that. We can discuss it.
I move that we contract with Harmony Educational Services.
I'll second. Any comment?
I do have a couple comments. They said it was a 3-year contract and you could get out after a year, but what is the penalty for that? If you get out within, you know.
Sure, there is no penalty, and we can alter it once the board decides we want to go this way. They can decide if they want a 1 year, or 2 year, or 3 year, so there is no penalty. We just have to give them written notice 60 or 90 days ahead of time, by February 1st.
Okay.
We have to give them written notice, and there is no penalty.
Okay, good. And the other question is Harmony gonna be up and running when school starts? I mean, they made that commitment. I know, we're kinda late in the year, but will they be ready
We
to
are
go?
late in the game, and I will have to ask that question tomorrow once the board approves it. I
Okay.
can't go forward with that. It might be January, but they've been very gracious to us.
Okay,
So if it's something that the community and the board wants, then we'll see how we can get it done for that.
okay. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Roche, my understanding is that they have agreed to come and do sort of a community outreach event
Yes.
at the fairgrounds for all of the people who might be interested in participating in that. Are they planning, if we go ahead with that after tonight, would they
Absolutely.
do that before the school year? So
That's
that
our
might
goal.
help.
That's our goal, is to, once you decide whether you wanna go ahead with this, I call them tomorrow, and then they take over advertising and pushing it and coming out into the community. That's their responsibility. So they'll give us the dates and times. I know they're as anxious as we are to see where we stand with this.
And I had one question on that. I see, that, are you, have all the legal, language has been taken care of for Harmony? Because I see one of your agenda items was, code 3110 that had to deal with, attendance and hours of instruction and all that business. Was that one of the items that you were gonna discuss in regards to the Harmony? I mean, are we set to go as far as, any language in any of the codes for attendance that might prohibit us from having Harmony? Is that all been clear?
Harmony follows the district's lead. They align their working system with whatever our hours, whatever our times are. They
So
meet-
Harmony is taking care of that?
Yes, they meet requirements of Montana. They work with OPI very closely as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize, when you wanna speak, I should have just come up to the podium so the people on the video can see you, and so better likelihood that everyone around you will hear you as well.
I was just wondering, is it true that they can't enroll in Harmony if they haven't been a homeschooler for a year? And does that concern you that we'll lose kids to homeschool without any refund for the year?
So that will actually be set by the school district. We get to work with them to decide what we're going to allow or not allow, so we can put in the caveat that we don't want kids who haven't been in homeschool for at least a year to be able to enroll, so we don't have kids jumping from brick and mortar right into Harmony. But we can also have, extenuating circumstances, where maybe a kid would be better fit there.
So is that
But that's really run by the district.
Is that what your lead is going towards?
Well, we haven't built it yet, cause we haven't even approved it yet.
Okay, so I just heard some concerns from, teachers that we will lose a lot of kids going to homeschool for a year and we won't get any money for them. Is that not a concern?
If they're going to go to homeschool, they're gonna go whether or not there's a Harmony program or not. We just don't wanna incentivize them to go to homeschool. We'd like to keep them brick and mortar.
So you don't think that they will intentionally homeschool for a year so they can be part of the Harmony program?
If I may, I think part of the whole challenge of this program, anything new, is to see how well it works out and how valuable it is and how parents and teachers think it's working for us. So I don't know that we have an onrush, we have a onslaught of kids leaving us and going to Harmony. That's not what we want to do. Public education is our priority. So, this is something that I think will take off very slowly. I don't, it is certainly my hope that we don't see 10, 15 kids wanting to join Harmony. I don't think they will because they don't really know what it is yet. It's like a new car, don't get the new model this year, wait another year. So in essence, I'm hoping, that's not what we want. The priority is this building and public education. The other is an opportunity to create a partnership with our homeschool population and offer alternatives for a number of children. So we're hoping that's not the case. Again, we will have more in-depth conversation with Harmony and talk to a couple of other people. Talk to one other district, hasn't had that problem, okay? And we again can frame this contract and the nuances of it for us to see how it works best for Plains, not for anybody else. And that was the thank you of the questions that people, gave me that night. I sent it to them and we went over them question by question, answer by answer, to make sure that the questions of the people were answered.
But you articulated the risk that we are concerned. But we're hoping that that won't happen, but that is the big risk.
I know, I have 2 kids and I'm trying to keep them
Can
away
you-
from coming in here.
Okay, we need you at the podium so that people have the opportunity to hear you and see you. But Sue's gonna come up and help. Thank you, Sue. Extra steps, but with everything being recorded, I don't want
Well,
anyone
I'm
who
not
can't
gonna
be here
guarantee
missing.
my kids won't come down here, so FYI, in a little while. I just had a quick question. I know you guys are deciding and considering right now, but if this is put in place, are we gonna have to revamp extracurricular activity handbook? Cause that's gonna be like a whole revamp, making sure their standards are the same as our students here at school, grades, absences, anything like that.
Because MHSA allows private or homeschool students to participate, our handbook is already accommodated for the homeschool students.
Okay, so we're not gonna make sure it's like Harmony homeschool, it's covered legally.
Covered by MHSA, correct?
Okay. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and take a vote on that.
Albany? Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, unfinished business B, update on status of community use of school playground facility. This is not anything we're taking action on, we did that at our last meeting. I just wanted to give an update. The shared use agreement was, prepared by MTSBA, our legal consult people. I got it last night, was able to look over it, and delivered that to the mayor today, along with the playground rules and hours of of operation that are required to go with that. So now he has it, he'll share it with MMIA, and he will share it with their town attorney, and it will go before their city council. I don't know how long that will take, but it is in the works, and we have moved forward with that. Yes, and we will have new signs made up to reflect those updated rules, but we won't hang them, and they won't be operative until it's gone through our city. So just wanna make sure that was very clear.
Just had one quick question. So it has to be voted on and passed at the city and here also?
We've already
Agreement.
voted on it, we've already passed it, now it is just
Okay.
in the city's hands.
When you were here last meeting, right there, and I made the motion, and then you got on Facebook and posted the opposite.
Yeah.
You were sitting right there when we made the motion.
But all I said
No,
was
you
the
said we weren't
playground
gonna, you
was
said we weren't gonna
still
open it.
closed.
You said we
So-
weren't gonna open it. That's
so-
not what was passed at this meeting.
It was, all I said was the playground is closed right
Yes,
now.
it's closed, it is in the hands of city, the city is working on the shared use agreement so that we can have the proper protection for the school, facilities under their liability insurance, and they will run it sort of like a
City bar.
Mhm.
Community bar.
Yeah.
It's a public act, can I look at that policy that's already been handed over to the mayor? I mean,
I would,
Once
it's
I would say it would
approved, I
have to be
think you have
approved
to say
first.
true.
Yeah, as
it
soon
has
as
to
it's
be
approved.
approved first,
Correct.
and then
Legal.
They might be making adaptations to it, we don't know. We have offered them a formatted one that they will take into consideration. It will go through their city attorney, it will go through their MMIA liability insurance coverage people, and they will adapt it if they need to. So it's a draft form right now.
Mhm.
When it is completed and back to us, then we can share it.
Okay. But did you ask for public input into this shared agreement? I mean.
No, it's-
No.
It's legally written, it has to be written up by an attorney, so attorneys wrote it up.
So when it comes back here, people can still
You
comment?
can look at it.
Yeah,
We'll let you see it.
okay.
Okay. Unfinished business, consideration and possibility to approve an MOU with Revere Transportation. So we love that Chad is here. Chad and I were able to have a good conversation, and so we just wanna discuss and maybe vote on an MOU to help cover, our calendar days do not match the contract that we have, so we've been working together on that. So Chad, do you wanna get up and kinda share, what you guys have come up with that you think would be a feasible, response to that you've given us?
She was saying I was supposed to do homework?
No homework. I just don't wanna mess up what you gave us,
Right.
your ideas, so we can talk about it as a board. Yeah, I guess if we vote on it, we can do a motion. I thought we'd do it after we agreed on one, but okay. Okay, well, that's fine, let's do it now.
I just thought maybe you had to talk about it.
No, it's not the MOU, this is the information of the starting point for a conversation to then create the MOU. Yeah,
We don't have the MOU yet,
Okay,
because it gives us all
correct.
the information.
okay, thank you, Tom. Give us some grace, right, we're
Well,
all.
what bullet points do you have?
So the bullet points, so we have, the conversation about what you guys thought would be good, as far as this last year, because our dates were off, and then sort of what we wanna do moving forward to have it reflect school calendar days rather than the hard number that was put into the contract, since ours is adapting yearly now.
So, what I think what we talked about previously was trying to match the calendar days with, because it's a revolving target.
At this point.
Yeah, and so what we try to do is keep our bus drivers, they make around $1,000 a month, which, you know, it's not a full-time job, but it's a person in a position that's kinda hard to do. So previously I talked to the board, we said that I had increased their pay to make it more up to speed with the changes in, inflation and everything, and then so if we have a decrease in calendar days, then we'd like to have a set number, but then you subtract out what you shouldn't be doing. So there's a certain amount of cost for doing business. There's, owning business, you gotta keep the lights on, you gotta insure, all that doesn't change in the matter of days. What changes changes is your running costs, so tires, fuel, a couple other things, driver pay. But what my goal is I'm not gonna pay my drivers less. So every year I do, it's based on a salary like a teacher. It's not based on hourly. So if we lose those days, I just eat it. But what I'm trying to do is come up with a good agreement between us that still meets both or makes sense for both ends, both parties. And I think we just need to address that with a committee, special committee, or go back and forth.
Yeah, you can
Chad,
absolutely ask
what was
questions. That's why
what
we're
was
here.
the difference between the days that we're talking about here? I know it was on here. What was the
Like
amount of days?
167, I think was.
In the
original.
contract, and we
Yeah, it was-
ran 159 days, I think it's all, yeah,
Wait, 8 days.
8 days
So it's
off.
an 8 days. Thank you.
Yep. So the hope is to come up with something that reflects in the contract, of instead of giving a specific amount of days, it's whatever the board passes each year, because unfortunately, it's become a bargaining tool. We haven't had a lot of money, so it's a good bargaining tool to help with the PTO. So coming up with that, and then whatever we think is a reasonable
Correct,
accommodation.
because you can't just take, okay, I pay you, say, $100 or $167. Instead of that, I'm gonna pay you $149 because of inherent annual costs that I have to do that they're set costs for running a business. And if you just take those off, it's like, well, that wasn't the way we structured the contract, that wasn't what I got costs associated with things to keep my business alive.
Question. So I get that 100%, 'cause remember we talked before when more Fridays came off? That was part of the adjustment the last time.
Correct.
You and I talked before, and I know like nobody wants to see people make less money at all. I understand what you're talking about. But I know that we had talked about with the charter buses, the bathrooms. What were you thinking on a price like that? Cause would that make up the difference since we're gonna need to pay for bathrooms if we travel far? It's just a thought, that's all.
Is
It's
you saying I need to clean bathrooms?
no, I'm just saying that I know when it had been discussed, using the bathrooms
It can be
in the
discussed.
charter bus.
Yeah, that's-
For long, like out of county long distances.
Sure.
Which
And I
might,
wasn't sure if that makes up for that difference of that cost, since that would have to be it.
Potentially.
As Rob and Peter did on, from here
yeah.
to here.
Different baskets.
Just a thought.
So definitely something that we should put on for, if we wanna have like a bartering back and forth conversation, we should throw all of that in the pot. Can you, just for people who maybe haven't read this or don't understand this, the idea that you had around the $2.04 per gallon contract, the idea, the formula that you kinda had come up with, and if you wanna see it, we
Yeah, that'd be
printed it
great.
off, can anyone come get it?
Sure.
And then just kind of explain your thought process around that for, the community and for the board.
Question. You said $2 a gallon, so you mean $2 a mile, or how is this contract?
He's gonna
Well,
break that down.
he's gonna explain that based on the
Oh.
contract we have, yeah.
So when the contract was really set up 25 years ago, it was structured that Revere Transportation would pay for fuel, and the contract by the school paying us per month has a certain amount built into it that will give us an operating amount. So in the end, what I do at the end of the year is anything over 204, because we know fuel's not 204.
Right, okay.
I take that off the total miles we ran, and then I take the difference, and then they reimburse. Or if it's under, well, that'd be the day. I would reimburse the school for the difference in that. So it's like a middle range that you can operate on, that I'm not fronting the bill, they're not fronting the bill. They give me some amount to run on, and then at the end, whatever it is, cause it's moving all the time, we take that difference and then I'm reimbursed at the end. So basically, my contract price covers the operations at 204 a gallon. Anything on top of that, the school covers.
And that's reimbursed monthly.
So it's at the end of the year, so I'm operating going down, and then they reimburse me throughout the year. And so at the end, all said and done, like, the school pays for fuel, at the end. It's, I mean, I shouldn't pay.
Or reimburse.
Yeah, they reimburse correctly, yeah.
Okay.
What else we got? So it says, to achieve a per day decrease, we take the miles traveled by all the buses in a single day, 350, so that's the amount the route buses travel, divide by an average of 6 miles per gallon, then you multiply by 204. And Revere Transportation covers for fuel built into the contract. So that would be a decrease of a running cost that would be acceptable by me, because I know that's a direct cost that should not be paid.
I have a question.
Sure.
So, just out of observation, it looks like you're preparing for electric buses.
Correct.
How are you gonna figure an adjustment for that? Because clearly that's going to be a much lower operating cost as opposed to fuel.
Hopefully. So
So does that mean you're going to have another discussion about?
100%.
Okay.
Be another MOU.
It's always a running conversation,
Right.
we would have to.
Is that good? When are those gonna be ready this year?
They told me, late July, early August,
Next year?
I'm not holding my breath. Exactly, but, yeah, that will be a
2030 maybe?
future conversation, and,
Yeah.
yeah, between replacing a $100,000 at this time, like I said, the batteries may go up to 160, but, that's just the battery bank for the bus, so you've gotta account for replacement cost, and then you also have diesel bus price. I know Hot Springs just bought one, and it was 190 or 200,000. So the diesel bus is no longer 125,000. So there's certain costs that you have to associate when you're looking at your business and moving forward. And when you have a pool that's getting less and less from the school, there's gonna be some communication.
Okay, so we will, do you guys have any questions for him about the proposal that he's having us try and accommodate for some of the 8 days that we have off our calendar?
And you're gonna sit down.
So I think we need to sit down and have a conversation and write an MOU, huh?
Who is gonna write the MOU? Us or?
No, it would probably be MTSBA. When we give them the parameters, they would write up an MOU and make sure it's flexible. Yeah.
Let's just come and get understanding now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we can add in some of the discussion around the bathroom. I know you and I talked a little bit about that, we can add
I
that
was
in
just
that
throwing out,
discussion
just
too.
out of curiosity, the difference of that.
For people that don't know the bathroom thing, so a lot of the sports, especially track, are the ones they've been pushing. Our drivers aren't allowed to go over 14 hours. It's, I think, 15, and then you can't work the next 2 days. You can imagine driving 14 hours, or being gone 14 hours. So you drive, say, 6-7 hours, you go somewhere, you drive 6-7 hours home. Like, nobody wants to do that. Is that the safest thing to have them coming home late in the night? Like, we don't want our kids doing that ideally. So some of it was minimizing some of the gas station stops, stuff like that, and one of the options was to open the restrooms in the charter, try to mitigate that.
That's the difference between boys and girls have to stop.
And if I understand correctly, currently you don't charge us a different rate for the charter bus, it's the same as the yellow school bus rate. So you
Yep.
would potentially be willing to tack on a little bit of a fee for the bathroom to have to maintain and manage the bathroom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless you wanna do it.
I do not. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm a little busy. But, okay, so that's good stuff for a discussion, so, are you gonna be here after the meeting?
I can.
Okay, cause then maybe we can come up with a day and we will publicly notice it so that, people can come and participate and listen if
Okay.
they want. Thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah.
We
Thanks, Chad.
appreciate working with you.
No problem. Mutual.
Yep, so we'll table that and we will, create a special meeting for that. Okay, on to new business. Consideration and possible action to begin a part-time afternoon 4-year-old program to run from 12:45 to 3:30 during the regular school calendar. Can we get a motion so we can discuss that?
to approve part-time active 4-year-old program, run from 12:45 to 3:30 during regular school time.
I'll second. Okay. Okay, so Dr. Walsh, do you wanna share the program with us?
Sure, this is as a result of a desire to both expand enrollment at a lower level and a pre-K level, and to also keep our teachers in the positions. We presently have 17 students enrolled for kindergarten, and we find this is a way to better expand and offer opportunity, because if Mr. Meredith was here, he would say that Sanders County is called the desert of early childhood, because there's such a great need in the community. So what we put together, and he put together with me, is the whole idea of having the kindergarten is divided in the morning to 2 teachers have it, and in the afternoon, with assistance, 1 teacher would take the 17 and the other would start the early childhood 4-year-old half-day program. So at least we get the children acclimated and serve the community, and at the same time, try to build enrollment for the school. Now, we did not go for the early literacy grant, because at the time, when I discussed it with Mr. Meredith, he said, no, we're not ready for it yet, and I respected his opinion, and he was right. But right now, due to need, I called OPI and we talked to OPI directly. I talked to OPI directly and I said, this is a need that we have. We want to offer it to our community. Is there a way that we can do it? And people I spoke to were very accommodating and said, yes, you're a small school, a small rural school. You want to try something good for the people and the community, so you can start that part-time half-day program, 5 days a week for the 4-year-olds. You have to, no more than 10. I told him we're going to aim for 7. And that will be yet another avenue for which we can build capacity and build our kindergarten the next year, but be multiple levels. Keep a job, serve the community, serve kids, and continue to give Plains the good name of serving people and educating kids as it has. So that is the impetus for having this starting, and the teachers involved in it are very excited. They have a flyer ready to go once the board, if the board approves it, and we're gonna go out and try our best to see what we can do.
Dr. Walsh, am I correct in my understanding that this doesn't involve a new teacher?
No,
This is the 2
no.
kindergarten teachers in the afternoon, having one of them taking the preschool kids and one taking the 17 kindergarten.
Absolutely. In the morning with small group instruction with reading and literacy and numeracy, they will have small groups of 8 and 8, 7 and 7, and then in the afternoon for music and art and fun things like that, and play, directed play, then one teacher will have the 17th to parent, and the other teacher will take whatever children we've registered for the 4-year-old program. And we'll get half A and B for those children in the afternoon. We'll also open it up, speaking with Larry Joe, open it up for, if the parents wish, they can bring them in a little bit earlier to have lunch, so we can start getting them really integrated into the school community. We do not have to offer them bus service. OPI said we do not have to offer that because it's a program at this point. It's not a regular full-time academic program. So that's where we stand with this. Again, you know, like in anything, like in Harmony, it's a risk, but if we don't take a risk, we won't know how we can grow and what part of the community we're tapping. Who are we touching? It can't be the same thing. So it's a start, it's the beginning. We will be testing them, they will be assessed. They will follow, you know, a 4-year-old program. And Mrs. Greer will be the one, Mr. Meredith informs me, she will be the one doing the afternoon program, and Mrs. Rice will have the combined class in the afternoon.
So from OPI's perspective, this is sort of a probationary period that we're doing?
Well, we could expand it, if it works out, we
Right.
can expand it, but yeah.
What's the period? Is it 1 year, 2 years that we try this out before we
Well, I think
make
that's
it
a
a regular
discussion,
program?
I think that's a discussion we have
We
to
just
have.
kind of wait and see.
Yeah, we wanna look at, you know, what's the ROI, what are we getting, who is responding to us? Is it
Right.
really a need? I mean, you know, anecdotally, we feel it's a need. I've had people say, oh, why didn't you have this? But
Right.
again, like anything else, unless they come and show up and they're in our classes, we don't really know. So I think that would be a discussion mid-year that the board would have and saying, how are we doing this? Are we keeping it? Are we ending it? I would hope they would be able to expand it,
Yeah.
you know, with more and more public engagement.
With I'm talking about how we don't have to offer bus services,
Mhm.
since Chad said we'll ask this question.
Mhm.
If it's on regular bus routes, it doesn't mess with this bus route, you'll have some parents that are gonna be like, no, I don't want my baby to ride the bus, I don't want
Right.
to get them up. But But what if you run into parents that have an additional child that goes to school, and they would ask the child to go?
So we have a list of topics to discuss. Again, you know, we're not presumptuous once the board says yea or nay. And one of the things Mr. Meredith and I have spoken about is we look at it as a case by case. So if you have a third and a fourth grader on the bus, and then you want this kindergarten child to join the bus, it would make sense if the parent wants it. On the converse of that is that parents might not want their kid, their little one on a bus with the bigger kids. So, again, that would be really parent choice at this point. What is the parent most comfortable with? What does it work best with for the kids and the parent?
Any other comments?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. Consideration and possible action to enter into an MOU with the Plains Police Department for the shared use of the high school weight room, Monday through Saturday after midnight, and on Sundays after 7 p.m. unless the room is in use by the school. Dr. Walsh, would you please?
Sure. I was approached by Officer Deanan, and I invited Russell to join me in the conversation to talk about, they are given a mandate that they have an hour a day, the police department, that they can work out for their good, physical well-being. The problem that they had, the concern that they had was in doing so at Slim Jim or Warrior Fitness, they're working out with their clients. Those were the words used, right? They're working out with the same people who they might have given tickets to, they might have they might have things. So the question was,
Friends?
the question was that, if we had the availability, could they use it on these off hours, and I think I believe we put it in there, when no one else was around, and they would take responsibility. They had our MOU written up for us to review. They would take responsibility for anything, if it broke, if it this, if it that. Russell, we conferred, right, and there was no problem with hours or availability, and the school takes first choice, so if there ever was a conflict, they just wouldn't use it. It would defer to us.
The officer estimated they'd be in there 2 or 3 in the morning.
2 in the morning, yeah. They get up at 12, they go in at 1 or 2 in the morning. We don't want anybody in there at 1 or 2 in the morning in the school. So, that's what we're asking. We're asking if you would consider allowing the police department, 3 or 4 men, to, use the gym at that time. We would give them access, they would park in the back. Think of it as another safety precaution.
And if I understand correctly, since they're not school staff, they will be coming with their own liability insurance.
Yes,
and
yes,
other-
oh yes, they have all that, That's all. They'd be responsible for everything.
What's the access gonna be really gonna be?
Well,
Like a key or a
Access.
pad?
Yeah.
it'll be key,
It's key.
but we can have a gym only, one for.
The same one they use for like old night volleyball and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments about the weight room?
I did have one, so what if the firefighters wanna do this too, or a specific group? Would they be allowed at the same time? I know the ones on Airport Road have their own weight machines, but I do know that in town there is a firefighter building. Would they be able to come and if they wanted to join with these policemen?
I think that would be something we'd have to find out with the MOU from the police department, but I certainly would not want to deny the fire department
Yeah,
access to
that's
use it.
another
So
group.
that might have to mean we have to create a schedule, a more definitive schedule, when
Yeah.
the PD can use it and the fire department use it. Or they might join together and say, hey, yeah, let's fix this and let's come together. And then they would pass it by us and the board would approve it or not. But I don't think anybody should be discriminated against in using that. And, if it's there and it's good use, I think the community should use it.
And then the Plain School does have a facility use agreement, and it's in agreement with all of this? Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
Oh, I need a motion.
Oh, I move that we enter into an MOU with the police department for use of our gym.
I'll second. Wow, this is that, imagine that again, okay. Now we can.
No mistakes.
Yes.
Monica? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Lana?
Yes. We'll have to
Tickets
accept the
today.
fact, we all make mistakes.
No, tickets today.
Tickets today. Okay, so consideration and possible action for approval of these updated policies. There's a lot of them, I know we have a lot coming, these are provided for and required by MTSBA. We have real say over them in general. We just have to accommodate the decision that has passed. I would, entertain a motion.
We're doing it.
Now we'll do them all together.
Put them all together.
Yeah.
I'd like to take out a couple, because I have a couple of questions about them.
You wanna take them out, or you wanna just ask questions?
I wanna
and
ask
comment
questions
time?
about a couple of these policies.
Okay.
Okay.
So all of them?
All of them.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the updated policies of 1015 Frank Edward, 5430 Nora Frank, subsection 1, 3416, 3121, 3141, 2100, 3110, 2334, and 2456.
I'll second. Okay, so these, like I said, are dictated to us by MTSBA. We don't get to control them, but we can try and discuss as much as possible. What questions did you have and on which ones?
I had a question about the school calendar and day. Under this commemorative holidays section, you know, it says basically that they want us, this school, to educate students about what these days are all about. And there's a list of holidays, and I don't see Martin Luther King Day on them, and I'm wondering if that was just an omission, or why that's not included.
That we don't know. So MTSBA created these based off of legislation and legal requirements. So we have to adopt them into our policy because legislation requires us to do so. But I don't know why that one isn't on there.
And I know they teach it. Yeah, cause I know it's a Montana
It's a
holiday,
federal
it's a
holiday.
federal
It's a federal
holiday.
holiday.
And it's like on every one except that one, so I'm
Yeah.
just puzzled why that one's missing. The other question I had was about the release time for religious instruction. There's this little section that says optional about giving credit for the religious instruction time, and there's quite a discussion about how you decide whether the criteria for religious instruction meets secular educational
Mhm.
requirements, and I'm curious, who is doing that
My-
assessment?
That's a good question, and my recommendation is that we take out the optional language. It does confuse it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not required, so I think it just makes sense for a school not to have that optional language.
So we
there.
do have the option to
Correct,
change
it's
that
optional.
because it's optional.
We don't have to include it.
We gave you the whole thing so you could see exactly what came from.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems like that's a huge workload
We
for
don't
us
need-
to try and decide whether this meets
We
our
don't have to include that, that's why
criteria.
there's an X next to it, that
So we can just decide to
just not include that piece, yeah.
Those were my only.
That's the only one they gave us permission to make any changes to.
Okay.
That one's actually.
Yeah, it is worth asking. I mean, we're going to teach on it anyway, but I'm not sure.
That's Our teachers teach all of,
They
they
do.
teach
I think it's
everything that has
awesome.
to do with federal holidays, with anything having to do with community, with government, they teach all of it.
Yeah.
Lynn, I had a question or two for them. These are just policy directives coming out of the Montana School Board Association. Make it clear.
And from the legislation, correct, as it's passed down from them, we have to update it in our policy book to match what they're saying in the legislative program now.
Okay.
And there's a lot more to come. There's a
Yeah.
lot of them this time.
Yeah, there's a lot coming. And I would just mention and say that, you know, they have a team of legal experts that see that one of them was, I think 3416 was, instructions on giving medications to students in the school. So, you know, just maybe, I know they run all of these things through a legal team, so to make sure the language is all, you know, proper.
Yeah, so it's a policy we already have, it's not brand new, but they do go through and they change in red what legislation has said has to be changed in that.
Like, we actually currently have it, Catherine, you took the class, right? So Catherine, what's the name of the class?
There's a bunch of them on every time, I can't tell you exactly.
So it's a bunch of classes that Catherine took, so when the nurse is not here, she's certified to give out those medications.
And one of the ones I wanted to ask about was 2456, because I couldn't find anything on that. But I just saw a
2456 or
House bill
2450?
at the national level, which, tried to bring parents back into the primary responsible, being the primary responsible one for the education.
Can I
of children.
ask you a question real quickly? We're not looking at 2456, it's not in our agenda packet. Are you on 2450, Indian Education for All?
It was listed.
I said the number, it's right
It's
there.
right on
Is
there.
it a typo?
It's in here.
No, it's not in here.
Well, that's the one I couldn't find
2450,
anything
we
on,
don't have
so I.
2456.
No, cause it stops at 34.
We're going to have to amend that 24,
Maybe you wanna take one off.
2456 is not in our packet,
Yeah.
so we'll take that
That's
one
the
off.
I'm worried about.
Thank you. We will
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
definitely be addressing that one at the next meeting. Okay, yeah, so if you could amend that to, well, 2450,
2450.
correct.
Yeah, the 2450.
Because 50 was in there, but not 56.
No, it's supposed to be 50, I think it was just,
Yeah.
my, it was just typo.
Again, thank you for having grace for us, for being human. It's a lot putting together one of these agendas, and things sometimes get missed. So it's a good thing we can always fix it.
You know, we make an amendment on the option.
Yes. On, which one was that one on? Yes, yes. Don't
So
be
for,
optional.
for 2334, can remove the optional, is that in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, okay. Yeah, it's out there. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments about, our policy updates?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, consideration and action to be taken to increase the cost of activity passes for students from $25 to $35, and for adult couple tickets from $75 to $80. Gate tickets will increase from $5 to $6 for students and $7 to $8 for adults. So, with that, Russell, would you like to, oh wait, sorry, let's make a motion, thank you, let's do that.
I make a motion, to approve the increase in activity passes for the students from 25 to 35, couple tickets from 75 to 80, from individual tickets for students 5 to 6 for entry, and for adults from 7 to 8.
And second. I know, thank you, no, I love it because I'm ready to like get through this and get the information. Okay, Russell, you have the floor.
So obviously, operating costs for sports are gonna increase every year. Official costs are kind of the big one, and gate prices directly affect that. So those will go up this year, travel costs raise, and so do entry fees for some tournaments. So, I looked around in our district and division, and these numbers are still very much on the low end. Lots of schools in the area are charging 25 to 35 per sport. Some in our division are even charging $75 a sport. So, we just wanna make sure we have enough to keep our sports sustainable, but we still don't need to go quite to some of the extremes that some of the other schools in the area have gone.
And this is helping pay for officials too, right, Russell? This is helping pay for officials too?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then the 25, 35, is there a cheaper one for the elementary school, if I remember correctly? Is there a lower cost one, yeah?
I'd have to look.
There was, right, cause we was like something ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
this
$100
is for students.
Just
participate.
Participate, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a question, just cause I know there's one for like the younger kiddos out there. Not the
Not
others,
the others.
just these going out.
So the younger kids would stay wherever it was.
And can we, I don't know if it's happened before, is it a good idea if there was like a thing when they go to pay to get in, like, if you were to buy a season pass, look at all the money you would save on all the ones you go to, instead of buying them individually? Does
Yeah.
that mean some more season passes?
Yeah, which is kinda how we calculated the increase for the adult couple one. 'Cause, I mean, if some people are only going to one sport, and you have,
Yeah.
you know,
If you're going to one every week,
Yeah.
it's totally worth it just to buy the pass.
And the senior status stays the same.
We won't charge the seniors.
Just wanna put that out there in case of you know.
Looking at you.
She fits.
Yeah. If you didn't pay $7 last year, you won't pay $8 this year.
Don't worry, she didn't call out her mom or dad.
Any other comments on the activity passes and gate price increases? Okay. Can you come up to the podium, sorry, and then, yeah, then
Katie,
speak up.
come join us.
So quick to hear you, my friend.
I said, do you not think with the increase of gate prices, that this isn't gonna cause more people just to watch it at home? From the convenience of their house.
I mean, if they pay for the membership, they're gonna watch it from home regardless.
Absolutely.
Well,
But
no, I didn't.
I know, like some people will, like if it's an inconvenience or somebody's sick, they'll watch it from home. Like what Russell said, like Thompson Falls, they're charging per sport, like for each student. Like I know it's an increase to go up and it's not trying to discourage the kids, but if we don't go up a little bit here and there,
No problem with the activity prices, I just think the gate price is one that people will.
maybe they'll encourage them to buy a season pass.
Three of the other 4 schools in our district are already at 6 and 8. Troy's the only one that.
I know, but being a person in the stands, I remember listening to people complain.
Yeah.
And so if we can advertise it somehow a little bit more obvious, people might pay more attention and think about the activity pass. But if they don't know it's something that's available to
No,
them.
I agree. It'd be really nice if there was a way to get it out to like, hey, you go to this many and it adds up, buy a season pass. It'll
Right.
save you that much money.
Maybe we should create something to have at the gate.
I don't know, or something like with the newsletter that goes out for the kids at the beginning of the year, maybe, something like that,
Subscription.
just to educate them.
It was like $50 for the year, so I could watch anything or rewatch anything, and.
Yeah, when they go,
Yeah.
when they go like away, I've done the same thing, cause you can sit there and watch it right in your living room, if they go away somewhere
During winter.
super nice, you don't forget what week they come.
Correct. Although when it starts to spin, you get a little frustrated, like, stop spinning, I was watching that.
Or if you're sitting right next to the camera, you can hear everything he said.
Okay, Lana, could you, say
What's
what?
the senior age?
What is our senior age?
What do you want it to?
No,
59.
no, what's the senior age? 65. You have a few years to wait, Mr. Dickens.
It's not really worth it.
I can't believe you're upset about that bit.
Alright, that's all right?
Steve?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, consideration and possible action to approve the athletic handbook. I would entertain a motion for the handbook.
I move to approve the athletic handbook.
I'll second. Okay, any comments about the athletic handbook?
I just had a comment, we're going over a lot of things, and I wish our, elementary principal and our high school principal would have been able to come today.
He's on vacation.
Yeah, they get vacation in the summer, yeah. But we have had most of these handbooks for a while, so they've had options to look at them and reflect any concerns to us as well.
Were there any changes from last year to last week?
Russell, you wanna speak to that?
Yeah, so, I'm gonna pull it up so I don't mess up anything here. The first one was just an addition under the eligibility for students. It just said that the coaches and the athletic director have the right to, they can decide whether or not
Do you want me to read it?
8th grade participation will be necessary on their team for the year.
That falls to the athletic director?
And the head coach, they're both listed in there. Cause I mean, if we have 30 volleyball players, it's gonna be kinda ridiculous to have the coaches at 8th graders, that just doesn't make sense. So there's simple things like that. I didn't feel like I could write a policy sport specific for every single sport, so we're just gonna leave it up to me and those head coaches.
I just had a question on one of them, it's probably the next one we're gonna talk about.
Alright, we also have a change on eligibility. The requirements have not changed, but we are planning on doing, if a student is ineligible at the quarter, we'll do a 3-week grade check, and then they could return if they're eligible after that. The MHSA rules for grades and allowing participation are a lot less stringent than ours. The other thing along those lines is if a student is ineligible under our handbook, we would allow them to practice still if they're qualifying through MHSA rules.
So I'll read directly what we put here, just so it's verbatim. The first one, the athletic director and head coach reserve the right to allow 8th grade participation. Each activity student athletes. And if a student does not meet the 2.0 requirement, she will be placed on probation for 3 weeks following the preceding quarter end. In addition, if a student receives an F, she will be placed on probation until 3 weeks after the preceding quarter end. At that time, the F from the previous quarter must have been raised to a passing grade, and or the overall grade point average must be above a 2.0. If the student has 2 or more Fs during any grading period, he or she will be ineligible. Also, if a student has an F for a semester grade in a required class, he or she will be ineligible for at least a 3-week probationary period. Students may participate in practice while on probation for grading as long as she still meets the MHSA requirements listed below. A student must have received a passing grade and received credit in at least 20 periods of prepared work per week or its equivalent during the last preceding semester in which he or she was enrolled. Were those the only 2 changes to the handbook?
There's more.
Can I ask a question? Just about the great things. So is that at the end of the quarter or while they're in the middle of the quarter?
So,
If they have Fs?
right now, it's at the end of the quarter, that's the way.
The only reason I was asking is my kid's gonna be in high school now. Does it happen like when they get sick or not there? Like they put a 0 in the grade?
No,
And they turn it into negative F, I'll be like, well, crap,
That's
my kid's kinda
the
down.
quarter grade,
Okay, just making sure.
not
Just
an
wanted to
assignment
clarify that.
grade. And the way things work right now, if we don't do this, they're eligible for a whole quarter after that.
This
So
was to
on
fix it so they could get back in sooner.
Yeah, so they don't miss an entire sport.
Thank you for your clarification.
Katie?
Yep, I did have a question on the eligibility that's on page 6. And getting them back into that 3-week probationary period. Says if a student has an F for a semester grade in a required class, what's considered a required class? Cause Mr. Mitchell and I were talking about it, cause we read the packet at home and we're a majority of elective classes. Those aren't required unless they have to have it for graduation. So how is that gonna be determined? Cause they could be good for English, math, science, social studies, whatever is required of that year, but electives, those are up to the kids to choose from. So are we gonna require them to not have Fs in those classes as well? Because academics, all academics are
They
important.
still have to have a 2-point, and that's just the way it was written originally, was the no Fs in required classes.
For semester grade?
For semester, yes, I ran into that exact situation this last year.
Okay. So what's required classes, that's what I'm asking you guys, cause you're gonna possibly approve it, but it's kind of a fuzzy gray area on that exact term.
It's a good question.
So the 4 courses.
Do we have a list of the required classes for graduation? And also a part of that, there's so many electives that they have to take to graduate.
Required. I think that just my suggestion is that all classes should be included in this, because, I mean, for example, we'll have financial literacy will be in the course. And that's something that some kids might take as an elective in their earlier year, not realizing that when they get to the senior year, that was a requirement. And I think if we're gonna promote, an academic agenda as well as every other agenda, we should, number 1, hold the children accountable to passing all their classes. And number 2, support the teachers in their efforts to teach them no matter what the subject. So I would make a recommendation that all subjects are included in the test. That's just.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. I will say again, I didn't change any of the requirements, just the probationary period, so that's what's been in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you doing that, Russell, made it easier for kids to come back instead of having to wait an entire quarter.
But I think what this is allowing is a clarification of many of these things that were a little bit muddy at other times, just because there's so much encompassed in it.
Yeah. And then we will want to, but let's get through the discussion first. Okay, then the other area, and then we'll get you, Mr. Kellogg. The other change in here is overnight stays for multi-day events will be deemed necessary when travel time, excluding breaks, exceeds 2 hours. An overnight stay will also be deemed necessary. Warm-ups for the activity are required to start before 8 a.m., causing a departure before 6 a.m. Lastly, an overnight stay will be deemed necessary if bus drivers will not be able to complete round-trip travel in their allotted 14 hours. So that's another amendment to the book for people who have questions.
It's really just more of an observation than anything, but I'm stunned that all it takes is a D to participate.
You're not the first person that said that.
Talk about setting our standards pretty low. Whatever happened to accountability? I mean, it'd be different if there was some sort of disability factor or something to take into consideration, but it's supposed to be a privilege, I thought. And why treat it other than that?
I can tell you,
That's
like,
just my-
from my household and a lot of people that play in sports, my household standards are a lot harder than those in here. And you've
Well,
gotta
I
keep a
just-
higher GPA or you
What
sit
are we
the bench.
teaching these kids, if that's the case? So
And they have to maintain a C average. They
Well, I
have
thought you
to
said
have a
2.0, isn't that a D?
That's a C.
That's
Oh,
a
it
C.
is?
That's a C.
I thought that was a 3.0, and then a
That's a B.
4.0
That's
was
a
an
B.
A.
What is a B?
And 4.0 is an
Well,
A,
maybe
yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
out of sync for a while.
Yeah.
I've never had those issues, so I
Right.
just,
And also remembering, our job is not to necessarily set the highest level, that's at home. We can only come up with what is the base requirement that we can require kids to play at. We want them all up here, we can't force them
Well,
all to be up here.
and I completely understand that.
Yeah, we have some kids who will maybe hold that C-D line just well enough to be able to do wrestling or something, and it's what motivates them to even stay in the classroom. So our job is to come at this giving them, here's the base requirements we require, and then homes can say that I require this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Baker?
Hold on,
Oh,
there you go.
sorry, yes,
First.
Sorry.
Is it hard to keep, homeschool and brick and mortar on the same lane level with
So
suspension
that's-
and stuff? Because that, I feel like that's not fair.
It's not fair, but that's above our heads, that is, MHSA has allowed
So with
homeschool
homeschool,
students to be
Montana
able
is
to
very lax.
participate. And so if their parents say that they have this grade level,
And they turn it
that's
in,
the grade level
that's
they
what we
have.
get.
We cannot control that, that was above our head. It was not great for brick and mortar, but we can't control that.
Montana has very lax standards when it comes to
Yes.
reporting to the state on those grades. I know this past session when they talked about trying to get that big pay incentive, you said $8,000.
This is 8,000.
It was 8,000 and it didn't go through. The day I see that passing is the day you're gonna see they're gonna set some sort of standard where something's gonna have to be accountable for the grades if if folks are gonna get money for something like that. I do agree it's a little frustrating that I hope most parents would, do the right thing and put it on there, but hopefully we don't have any parents that are just writing something down so their kid can play. That doesn't happen.
You would hope not.
And so, just so I understand, it's just a pass-fail for homeschool, not a grade average
No,
that
they
gets
give
turned in?
letter grades.
They get
They
grade
have to
average?
bring in a letter grade, yeah. Mr. Baker?
You know, I get sidetracked there. I know that, I know a friend of mine that's on the school board, or on the MHSA board from Folsom there, and, to see when they are wrestling with a lot of these homeschool issues. So it's not something that they particularly tabled or taken off the table, and I know the concern is, they talked about that. I wanted to ask a question, because I didn't know, I don't quite understand the eighth graders thing. I know I was part of a committee on the MHSA when eighth graders were first looked at, to be, maybe come in and play at the high school level. And originally, the whole thought behind that was, it was really geared towards these really small Class C schools that, really had trouble fielding teams. And so they kind of entertained that idea of eighth graders coming in. And I think that's kind of evolved into something that's gotten away from the original intent on that. So I didn't quite understand, the change that you said.
Well, right now, before today, there was no policy on it at all. So basically, I wanna have a conversation with head coaches heading into each season.
So who made the decision prior to that? It was just like,
I believe it was tryouts, wasn't it, not Russell? Like, they
Yeah.
get cut if they weren't, hey, thanks for
Yeah,
trying
so
out,
they
but
followed the
not quite there, you need to stay for it.
regular cut policy.
so it was actually the coach of that particular sport that said,
Yes.
yeah, come over and try out or
Mhm.
whatever. But if the head coach said, no, we don't want eighth graders trying out, would that still be honored by the school at that point, or?
That's what
Was
this
it
is saying.
a
So
head coach
if
decision
we-
then, or?
If we go into the year and we've got, 3 teams lined up for volleyball or for
I
basketball.
guess what I'm saying is that, just a little bit of caution, if you don't exactly write up a policy on that, then, you're gonna run into trouble. I think maybe you already have a little bit with a coach that says, no, I want it this way, and another one will say, yeah, we don't want 8th graders coming up, or whatever. If you could make it a very consistent policy, it would probably
Okay, well, that,
negate some of the friction that you might have between
that would have to
programs.
be a policy for each sport then, because the participation numbers are completely different.
And I think the way I understood it before is if you tried out from 8th grade and you went to high school, you weren't guaranteed anything. You could try out and the coach could pull you to the side and say, hey, I really appreciate you trying out, but I don't think you're quite ready for high school yet. I think you should play 8th grade basketball, wrestling, or whatever, or volleyball one more year, and then come to the high school program.
Okay.
Because I know those conversations have happened in the past with coaches with 8th graders. And usually that's like a one-on-one with them, the parents, not like a Dear John letter.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to get the process in my head straight. So, thanks.
Any other questions about the athletic handbook?
I have one.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
because I'm gonna ask you, because Katie smiled back in the room, so I'm gonna ask you.
She's
Oh,
shaking her head no.
no, she's shaking her head no. For the buses. I know we had talked about, is there anything gonna be added to where, like, they played state last year, they went to Missoula, and it was under the 2 hours. So they rode back and forth. But I know there was a discussion that if that sport were to possibly raise funds or money, would that be an option, sport by sport, place by place, where they would be allowed to if they were to put in a request?
Especially for state.
That's why I'm asking. You.
That's a discussion. that
Okay,
you
I just
guys-
wanted to throw that out in front of the room with it on there, just because I know that's gonna come up. And I wasn't sure if that were to be presented with everything in line, like here's our game plan, here's everything, we had this fundraiser, here's all the money, can we do this? Is that something case by case, they're gonna need to come to us to have a request, or is that something we put policy where you?
That's something I thought that policy.
It was policy that we would have to pass, so,
Okay.
my guess is MTSBA would have to
That's,
create something.
because I know there was a lot of people upset last year about state, and I get it, it's under 2 hours, it saves money bringing it back. But if they had the funds and the assets available for them to do it, I don't see why I would be telling them no if they had it all squared away, so.
So that would be a policy that we could have MTSBA look at putting together, and it would go before the board, the community would have input on it,
Yes.
and then we could.
Because I know it's gonna,
And you'd have to have a fundraiser anticipation.
I know,
in it, right?
100%.
Not like
You'd
it's
have to
last
already have
minute,
money
then it
there,
would have to
yeah,
happen
so like some of
anyway.
the sports already have money there.
Smart equity.
Yeah.
So, just because I know that question's gonna come up.
We've been to several schools when my kids played sports. It was never an issue. The school always allowed money for districts, divisional, state. And it was always there. If they didn't go, it was probably the next year they put it in the budget again. But there was never any discussion that you had to fundraise. It was just money there. And then there was no question about that. And if you qualified for district and state and you were so far away, they stayed the night.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What year was that?
What year was that?
I'm just asking, if you go back so far, money has changed since
Yeah,
then.
even when
That's what I'm
I
getting
was
at.
in school, it was different than
It was
when our
different when
kids
they went to school. That's what I'm
paid for
asking
a
what
lot
year that
more
was. Because
than-
monetary money from
My
that,
husband
whatever then to now
retired,
is not
he
the
was
same.
an Arley coach, he
So it's just not
retired
the same.
7 years ago, and
And,
the money
and
was there.
funds and federal government and state government and money, it gets tighter.
It changes everything.
It changes.
Yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't meant to be an offensive question, I was asking just legitimately how long.
And
ago
then
it
I
was.
did hear that the track people didn't get to stay, but the cross-country team, or one of the teams did get to stay this year. And people were upset about that. I don't know which one it was.
It was in Missoula, and that was in my first month of working.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So there,
immediately after that, we had a conversation saying that
because of the cost, or because of what went on, or?
because of travel time, the cost, it doesn't make sense to spend money
And
for
plus,
an hour and 15-minute drive.
not
Well-
just with the money, you're also looking at kids who are participating tend to do better if they're home getting a good night's sleep rather than up all night with their friends in a motel room. So if it's closer, they actually do better if they come home and get a good night's
Yes.
sleep. So that was a piece of that conversation as well.
Okay.
It's a variety of things. So we do need to come up with something, and I think that's worth having a discussion around a policy
Something, yeah.
that accommodates for that puts kids' interests at the heart of it, but also being fiscally responsible with the funds that the school does have, which is not a lot, right?
Well, I know we lived in eastern Montana and there was no way, some of them, there was no way, they had to stay over.
Yeah.
Oh, for those distances, yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, any other questions about the athletic handbook?
I just have to say that,
Can you come up to
postseason-
the podium?
Really?
People on TV want to see you.
Postseason travel has always been and continued to be, even through the budget for the year that we just finished, it was always budgeted for, and still was budgeted for last year as well, just to be clear about that.
How
I
big?
couldn't pull a dollar
Hold
amount
on,
off.
he's got a
but
comment.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, how big is that dollar amount?
20 at least to 40, I mean, so then it's admin discretion and board discretion on how you spend it, but there is a budget there, just specifically for postseason travel.
Well, not missing, we just had a lot less money than we thought we had. There was the money
There was
we
a
actually had in our
discrepancy
accounts is
issue.
much less than what we anticipated a couple months
anticipated.
ago.
Yeah.
So we don't have the money we had a couple
And
months ago. It's not there.
historically, we usually didn't spend it in postseason travel, because
But
we
there was a
didn't
big
get to
discrepancy in
spend.
the money
Yeah.
from what was
So-
what was said was in the account and what was actually
But
not
they
there.
found it's a.
What they
big-
found, there was an audit.
Then it would usually get spent somewhere else, cause it's general fund and we can't carry it over, and that's usually.
No, but it was a big discrepancy that was
Yeah.
not correct.
Our general fund amount was different from what we thought we had, you know, a few months ago, to what they actually found like a month ago. It was a bit, but there's a lot less in there.
There's a lot less.
So we're truly trying to work through that as well, as other people have come in and have been able to itemize line by line for us.
Just a quick one. Just simply because I am on the booster club also, and for the meal procedures, it does say that the rates per meal will be in accordance with the school district's per diem policies, does the booster club second?
The booster
We didn't
club,
hear the last words.
you talking about the food reimbursement?
I don't know what the booster clubs.
Booster club, I believe, is paid for the kids,
The
not the
kids,
coaches.
one meal, it used to be $16
I just didn't know
a meal
because
per
of the
day.
verbatim on there, so I just wanted to double check.
Okay, I just know in the conversations I've heard with other coaches, I know it's covered for the students, I wasn't sure if it was covered for the coaches.
And I think the school covers the
Don't
coaches.
disagree.
Yeah, I thought this was
Coaches.
what happened.
What?
Yeah, I thought this happened after.
Sorry, you were asking about money, I was just. I
Sorry,
thought you were talking
we're
about
trying to
food
figure
I
out
just
what
didn't
booster
know
club
if you
they
had to
use.
make sure that it was correct in there, so that's the only reason I asked.
Oh, good
Under
question.
the,
See what page it's on?
Yeah, what
Page
page is it?
13.
That might.
28.
Page 28. Team meals will be provided for postseason competition, meals will be purchased according to school district purchasing policies. Rates per meal will be in accordance with the school district's per diem policies. The district will not provide meals for regulars at games and tournaments. The district will allow parents or others to provide tax meals for the team will travel, this would be known as a cooler clause. Okay, so what was your question?
I just didn't know if it should be the booster club instead of the school district, because I know that they went through a vote on the amount.
That's all?
It's not something I looked at.
No, she's down here, I was asking, should this
Right
say
here.
school or booster club rather than the school?
I mean, they are the ones paying for the food.
So the booster club has been paying for the kids' meals?
They play for all postseason meals for kids,
One meal per
One meal.
They do one meal per day for postseason play.
and then parents provide the cooler and stuff like that.
So your comment is that we should replace.
Still the school policy,
School
correct.
district's per diem policies with.
Yeah, this doesn't necessarily say the school's going to pay for it. Well, this does not say who's paying for it, so it is
That's
still
okay.
school
I was just
policy,
asking.
but yeah, that they will be following school district purchasing policies. So, do we know what our per diem policy is? And does it match that of the booster club that's paying the one meal?
They, the coaches get 3 meals per day at different rates. depending
Yeah.
on
What about for students?
I think it was,
I'm 16 right now.
was it? Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
And I think that's what the booster club pays is 16. So as long as they stay in accordance with what we have, then we're probably.
16 for lunch and dinner.
And I know one thing they got, is there something in the works for next year for sending lunches with kids?
Yeah, Heidi wanted to do it all
I just read that line and made me think of you. Okay.
That we could pull the team sports that are happening into the, program.
Would that be for regular season games and postseason? Okay. I see other schools do that, I think
Really
it's a
like
good
that
idea.
idea.
Yeah.
Kevin wasn't a fan of it, but Heidi really liked it, so I think we just need to get together and decide.
But it would have to be
Operating school days,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
operating school days.
So like if they have a game on Tuesday and they miss lunch
Lunch,
here,
it's missing lunch food.
then
That's why I think it's
lunch
a
would be
ticket, right?
packed for them so that they still had access to lunch.
Yes.
And we get federal funding for that.
Trout Creek has done that the whole time I've worked there, I always thought that was a pretty good idea. Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I just, this is my last time
I know you're walking up there.
over here. You know, I would maybe make a suggestion, maybe consider putting this in your athletic handbook, but, having been a divisional tournament manager of a few divisionals, here's how it generally works. Russell probably knows this, but, you know, if you have 8 teams in a divisional tournament, and like we're running the tournament, we take all our expenses, all of our referees' expenses, we take all the tournament expenses, we add up the gate and all the money that came in. And then, hopefully, it's not just a break-even situation. I think the ones that I did, we always made some money. And then we take the 8 schools, and I think this is still MHSA protocol. We take the 8 schools at the divisional and state level, and then we cut them a check for that. Now, I know Plains hasn't been to a lot of divisional and state tournaments probably lately, but I would recommend maybe taking that money from those tournaments. Cause I think, I argued for this in Libby, and they stuck it in the general fund. And, I was always in disagreement with that, cause you know where that goes. Yeah, that's spent on somebody else's stuff. And I was always the proponent of taking that money from any of those tournaments that plays and put it in the fund specifically for the funding of meals or lodging or whatever for future teams that, would possibly, you know, participate in the divisional state tournament. And I think that fund, you know, depending on the success of the Plains program, could, you know, could build over a period of time. And it may be an answer to some of these questions that you're talking about, so.
That is still the MHSA guidelines, so we have to follow that anyways. I'll say it's dependent on sport. Some district and divisional tournaments did actually make money, some did not. Between all our sports this year, I don't think we saw $200 total back from those tournament reimbursements, so.
But they get bigger at the state tournament, I can tell you that.
We need to get there.
Yeah. We'll
I'm
check
in
out there.
I agree.
I'm just curious how the tournament and wanting to stay overnight, if it's past the 2-hour thing, how's that going to, how's the policy, how's the process, I guess, how that could happen with this handbook? Cause again, if you approve this tonight, that's the handbook, and then you go by that, so then you're thinking maybe later, we're gonna do a policy, come up with a policy, does that go instantly in play when you guys decide that, or the following year? Cause like, we're gonna start fall sports here in
Yeah.
a month, you
Right.
know, and by the handbook you're gonna give them, so I'm just curious.
My guess is if we made an addendum to attach to this, it would be as soon as we passed it. We would set it up to make sure that if we address something, we'd say, okay, it needs to start as of today.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to clarify the process.
Katie, I can say right now, that wouldn't make any sense to have something right there, to have something with this, if someone came up with something, to make everybody wait the entire school year. That would make no sense.
Okay, we just wanna make sure we're
Okay.
fair for all sports,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to kind of clarify, cause
Yep.
the fall sports don't get it, but then we put a policy in place in winter, then winter and spring get it, kinda, sort of what cross-country happened this last year, so I just don't want us to repeat the same thing over and over again, cause it's not gonna help the kids.
Do we have high school schedules yet?
Mhm.
Do we have the fall schedules for high school sports yet?
They're not out, no.
Rest assured, that has been on our radar, since track and softball and all that, right? So it's something the school board has been kicking around needing to address, theoretically, before sports start. Okay, I think we're ready. Oh, which one is it? Which part? Oh, so that it says all classes, that's right. Colleen, do you want to amend your motion, if you're comfortable with that?
Yes. Amend the motion to include the change to the section about grades to make sure that it clarifies that all classes are included.
Monica, are you okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for amending it over there.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yes, Colin, Monica,
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, consideration and possible action to approve the establishment of a daycare fund, 270. Dr. Walsh, do you want to explain that?
Based on this elementary handbook? Yeah.
Oh, did I miss? Oh, I did, sorry. Woo-hoo. Oh, I don't know, and that's why it's not sitting in front of me, because we got that last one. Okay, consideration and possible action to approve the elementary handbook for the 25-26 school year. I'd entertain a motion for that.
I make a motion to approve the elementary handbook for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second.
And do we have any comments on the elementary?
I did have a comment. Last board meeting, you said we have a closed campus. So is that in the handbook that people could read and understand it better?
In the
Your
elementary
closed
student handbook?
campus policy that you said we have now, where is that in the school? Is
So
that
it is locked gates. When the
So
school
when you say
approves-
closed campus, that means nobody gets to leave. That's what a closed campus is.
Well, that's what you told me that this
That's a
wasn't-
closed playground.
Yeah,
No, you
so
said closed campus.
I said closed campus.
Yeah.
I
No,
did.
I'm just
And-
trying to
yes.
clarify this.
So when I'm talking about closed campus, when you talk about that in the handbook, that's, they can't leave campus to leave for lunch, it's a closed campus. What I am, referring to is more when it was voted on and approved to have locked gates, we now have an enclosed, locked campus. And
Okay.
that way it is physically a locked, closed campus.
And that's in the handbook.
No,
I
that
would
was
say it's
already
not in the
approved.
handbook.
The gates
But I
get
think it would be useful information for people to know that.
I think when they see the gates are closed, they realize they gotta come to the front door.
Yeah. But,
Well, but we had an obsolete sign there that.
But I think if the gate's closed, I think that
Yeah.
needs to go to the front door.
and ask questions, yeah. The signs have been taken down, new signs have been ordered, and as soon as we have the MOU, that will be up. This is the first year that we have had a locked campus.
Yes, but so if the playground gets open again and the signs are up, I think it would be good to be in the elementary handbook. Okay, what the hours are.
That'll be,
Oh,
that'll
that-
be on the fencing when it gets put in. It'll be
Yeah,
up there.
it will be
On the
outside of
gate.
school,
That's on it.
so
Yeah.
what's in our handbook will be what the students have access to anytime the school is open, that is for school use. The other part of it will be community run by the city, in conjunction with us, and there will be signs posted that say when they can come and utilize for the community members, that won't be for our students, that will be for the community.
Okay,
So it would be a little confusing if we added that to a student handbook for school, when that is solely focused on community and it being run like a community park.
okay, well, I'll look at it later to see, okay, so I can understand it better, so thanks.
Any other questions about the elementary student handbook? Think we're ready? Mhm.
Steve,
Yes.
Monica.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, okay. Now we'll move on to the establishment of the daycare fund 270. Dr. Osterlin?
Sure, in the recommendation of our auditors, we're asking to establish a daycare fund 270 that makes it specifically daycare. Before that, there was a blend with ESSER monies and all, but this would be now that daycare stands alone and is, honestly self-sufficient at this point. We just want wanna be sure any monies that are taken in are put directly into the fund for the daycare program. So we're asking to establish this by recommendation of our auditors, to establish a specific fund, Fund 270.
And where it was going before is now not,
Well, now it's better defined. They were having a hard time getting a handle on it, but this would be specific to the purpose that now we fund, because before there was a little bit of extra monies around, which we don't have, we no longer have. So we want every bit of money that's put into it accounted for that purpose.
I move we establish the daycare fund 270.
Second.
all right, any other questions or comments about the, daycare fund, 270?
Colleen?
Yes.
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, consideration and possible action to approve a negotiation settlement with the Plains Teacher Organization for the 25-27 school years. I know, and we looked at the calendar too.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion, but in that motion, there will need to be a caveat, yes, absolutely, since you got it.
I make a motion to approve the negotiation settlement with the Plains Teacher Organization for the 25 to 27 school year with the amendment that at the bottom of the pages say 25 to 27, because we currently say 24 to 25. And then for the appendix B in the back, for the school calendar, to talk about all the days of no school, that those get updated with the current years of the 25, 26, and 27. Right now, they still say 24.
Okay,
Which will change those
Second.
individual
Which will
days
change
as
on
well.
the 26,
It's gonna change, well, right now it has the, not just the holiday, it talks about individual days, which is going to change with the calendar. So that will have to be amended to be updated to match the year.
Yearly.
no. And do we have a second for that?
second.
You second that? I will. All right, any comments on the PTO negotiation?
If I could say something, I just wanna thank the teams on both sides who really worked and put their heart and soul into doing what's in the best interest of the teaching staff, which ultimately finds its way to the children, because when everybody gets something good that's done for them, it just emulates to the kids. And I think people worked very hard, there were long hours, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and they worked around vacation calendars and everything else, so I just would like to thank those people who were involved in it.
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, consideration and possible action to approve the negotiation settlement with the PCEA bargaining unit for the 25-27 school year. The same, yep.
I make a motion to approve the negotiated settlement for the PCEA bargaining unit for 25, 27 school years, with amending the bottom of the pages to reflect the 25 to 27, so they don't say 23 to 24. I think that's the only thing that counts.
That's all it counts.
There's no calendar.
There's no comment, I'll be matching the other one.
A second.
Any comments on the PCEA agreement?
I tried to load the stuff on my computer, I couldn't. What is the price tag that goes with this, if any?
Obviously, there's a price tag.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was part of the state school board association or whether if it was separate for just our school.
Just our school.
So do you have a price tag?
MTSBA? What the cost
Yeah,
was?
what
of
The
it?
cost is for just the negotiations for the PCA, the classified staff?
I'm not sure what it even stands for, I just wanted a price tag.
What's the question of
What's the
price tag?
question?
It refers to what?
Price tag for
The Plains Classified Employees Association?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's like for our custodians and all those people, that,
Yes.
okay. Do you know what the
I'm
price tag is?
not clear on the question, I
I don't
apologize.
understand the question. You mean the price tag, like what, if they got a raise,
How
or like
much
what it
did all
costs?
these
at the time?
raises
Is
cost?
it a legal thing, excuse me again, I'm looking at you.
The legal fee.
Is this a legal thing that you're at, or is this like a,
This is their
Contract
negotiations
settlement.
This is
contract.
their-
It's a contract settlement.
okay.
Just like with the PTO, they get one, then we do one with the classified staff
Yes.
as well.
Awesome. I when it said that, I thought a settlement, that was something different.
Oh, like.
I
No,
didn't
no,
know
no.
it.
okay,
No, no,
that's
no.
right.
So
Okay.
custodians,
Did
like,
they get a raise? I'll ask a quick
That's-
question.
Yes, they do
Yes.
get a raise.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
They're
we,
still
we are
pricey.
trying
Would
very
you like my
hard.
Is there, yes, I would love it.
Here,
Here.
fine.
Thank you.
It's that one.
Here, you can have that piece with it too.
You're so accommodating, thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, we tried to make sure, and we did a lot of time, Dr. Walsh did a lot of time, with the people who are helping us with our budget and our, line items, what we have financially, to make sure that we could give everyone not exactly what we think they're worth, right? We don't have enough money to do that, but to make sure that our money was well spent on people. That's important to us. Any other comments, concerns? Okay, people ready?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so I have the old agenda, but I know the next action item is consideration and possible action to fill the school board vacancy. We had this open for 2 weeks. We had, 3 very qualified, superior people who put in, for the appointment. So I think what we'll do, I'm just gonna kind of follow what I knew in City Hall, kind of put you on the spot. I see 2 of the ones who put in for it are here tonight. We'll have you come up one at a time, introduce yourself, give a little bit of information about who you are, why you wanna run for school board, and the board can ask you some questions. And then after that, one of you will be motions to be appointed, and we'll take a vote. It has to be a 3-1 vote. If it's a 2-2, it's dead on the table, and we move on to the next one. That's just how split votes work. That's why we don't wanna stay a 4-man team for long. Okay, so, I know, Mr. Baker, you said that you weren't coming up here again, but we'd like you to come up and talk to us again. Nothing like trial under fire.
Yeah.
I sort of laughed when you said you were done coming up. I thought, yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you wanna know. Yeah, I knew Ellen from way back, and I think you guys gave her a good round of thing, but when she resigned, I thought, well, what happened was, I was on the school board in Libby, and I always felt bad because I was kinda in a situation where Ellen was, in the fact that, I was elected beyond that board, and we were doing some things, and I was an active part of it. I kinda, was working with them, and then, my mom passed away over here in Plains, and, I had bought her house, and, it was just, I felt like I needed to come over here and, take care of some business there, and, take care of the house or whatever, so. I guess what I'm saying is when I saw that Ellen had run into some tough stuff, I thought, well, maybe this would be a chance for me to finally fulfill my obligation that I was voted for in Lincoln County. And plus, I grew up here in Plains, and I have grandchildren and whatever in the school here. And I felt an allegiance to Plains, and I've always been a person that really wants the best schools for kids, and I know that the school board plays a pivotal role in that, in that as a body, they're the ones that kind of answer to the voters and the sentiments of the community when it comes to issues concerning the education of their children. And I know there's a lot of things going on in education right now, just kind of stir things up a little bit. I think a lot of it probably for the good, maybe. And a lot of it is just making some challenges for us. You guys are talking about some of the challenges tonight, and I just thought maybe with my experience I could shed some light and, maybe get some advice on some of these challenges that are ahead of us. So I just thought, well, I'll put my name in there and see what happens, I guess. If I don't, then I'm not gonna run out and go a tirade if I'm not in there. Just give me another evening to go fishing, so. All right, so that's about it. I didn't really prepare anything, so.
No, we call that trial under fire. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Baker before he sits
Lisa, Wayne, I know you've been a teacher and you talked about your experience as a trustee. Have you also served as an administrator?
Not really in that capacity, and I never got my principal's endorsement, but, I served as an athletic director in Libby, was a larger school, and as such, they assigned me some, I don't know, some dean of students kinds of things, mostly in the area of technology. We were having some issues with technology amongst our athletes and on buses and stuff. I think probably you guys probably challenged that too, where there was some actual bullying going on via the phone, and so I was part of an active committee and kind of spearheaded a committee to try to do what we could about that issue, which is a looming issue. It's a fairly big issue now, and I got involved with it because it's very disruptive to especially those sports that are, trying to build a team concept. So, yeah, I did a little bit of that, but no, I never got my principal's endorsement. I have I never got the administrative endorsement, so. And then I coached just about everything. I was the head volleyball coach, head football coach, track coach, basketball coach, just very active over a long years. And then I taught in the classroom for a number of years as well, so yeah, I like teachers because I are one.
Question, so if appointed tonight, what would your intentions be as far as rerunning again, say, in the spring for future years? Like, would you just wanna be a stopgap, or would you wanna continue on?
I thought about that. I don't know, what is the I didn't even know how much time was left on this one.
This one would be done, and up for reelection in May. So
In May.
it's just till now, so people are
So
putting in
you
March.
just be getting in and then,
Correct.
well, you put me on the spot. If that's the case, I'd probably throw my hat in the ring again. If it was longer,
It's about 3 years, yeah.
cause I'm an old guy, you see me limp around. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't prepare this, so I'm sorry, it's kinda impromptu.
No, it's called trial by fire, I like it. I didn't plan anything when they appointed me in city council, I just had to get them talk. Oh, that's a good idea, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's me, I don't know.
Alright, any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I appreciate you being the person who brought the Harmony opportunity to the attention of the board.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine in St. Ignatius, I think, you met with him, didn't you, Kathy?
Yeah, I spoke to him a couple times.
Yeah, Jason, he was an outside linebacker for many years ago. He liked it, he thought it was a good liaison between, I think that's the way you're looking at Harmony as well, as a good kind of a bridge, if you will, between homeschool and public school, maybe to try to get a few students crossing that bridge a little bit, so we'll see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an unknown, so everybody's kind of nervous about it, but I don't know, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Wayne.
All right.
Okay, Robert Catlett.
Hey folks, for those that don't know me, my name's Robert Cudlip, and I actually ran for school board last 2 years consecutively. First time was against Monica and Ellen for 2 seats, most recently against Colleen. And I was told by many people I was at a disadvantage. All 3 gals, all 3 individuals, very well known in the community, all 3 individuals very well respected in the community. And it appears that I'll probably be dealt with the same disadvantages, and that's okay. That's quite okay, because here I stand, yet again. Given my strong vision for our community, and the fact that I have an 8-year-old, that attends the school. The success of this program is important to me. I bring a business mindset, and I'm very well aware of fiscal responsibility, given my profession. And wow, that's good. Given, what are we drawing a blank here? Given, this opportunity, I would like an opportunity to sit and collaborate with the board members, to ensure a bright future, not just for the district, but for our kids. And, you know, my involvement in the community in the last couple of years, further underscores my commitment. So, I just, with that being said, that's really all I have. Short and sweet.
Questions?
What do you do?
I'm a hay broker by trade, so I actually manage a family business in Arizona. I'm an operations manager. I've been doing it for 12 years. So I actually have a fleet of semis, 7 of them, and I make deals all day long. And I make sure payroll gets handled, or I make sure the money's there to get for payroll. I make sure the money's there for insurance. I'm very well aware of operating costs. And I think that brings tremendous value. I deal with negotiations constantly. I deal with problem solving constantly. You want to deal with some problems? Own some semis. Have employees. Have buses. Anyway, they're all dealt with their fair share of problems, and I handle it with the best of them. So I'm very qualified for that.
May I ask a question? My question is, given what you just said to us about how busy you are, I respect that.
Sure.
What about the commitment to the board? Do you see yourself being able to make those monthly meetings? Do you see yourself being able
100%.
to make, I mean, you know, because it, you know, special meetings, I
This is
think
my
that's
busy
key.
time. This is my busy time. And for me, it's just a matter of, if I choose to go to Arizona to handle business for some time, I work around my obligation here. And this is my home. So, you know, I'll be here till I die, as far as I'm concerned, and what happens here is important.
Meetings
And
aren't
like
that
I
long.
said, like I said, you know, I've got a little one that's gonna be coming up through the ranks, so I have a lot to learn, and I'm excited for that. I mean, hell, I thought the 2.0 was subpar.
But that means you
I mean, it's-
you
to
hold
me,
high standards in your house like I
It's
do.
mediocrity. You know, I still like to aim high. It's an expectation of my business. It's an expectation of my employees. It's an expectation that my father's instilled in me. And therefore, I think it's a healthy mindset to have. And that's just the way I think. It's the way I operate.
It's just the question I had was commitment to the board.
100%. I'm not worried about that one bit.
I'll ask you the same question I asked Mr. Baker. So given this seat is up in May for re-election, are you planning on rerunning again? I know you've run the last 2 cycles. Are you willing and planning on putting your ring in the hat if you're appointed? to
Most
continue
definitely.
on?
I mean, the only thing I would see would be something health-wise or some unforeseeable circumstance, but, I mean, I've come this far, so, you know, I really wanna make a difference. I wanna see what I can do. It's a different avenue. I know I have a lot to offer, and I think I can learn a lot. And knowledge is power in my book. So,
Any other questions?
Can give you some hay.
yeah, well, coming soon to Plains. Robert State Farm.
Love it, they need hay.
We don't do business with any board members.
That's okay.
I need hay.
I don't have board members in my current business,
Okay.
anyway, so it's quite okay.
We don't have any livestock or.
I stay
horses.
plenty busy.
I'm
trying
assuming
to
your
still-
hay season there is way better than our hay season right now here.
Well, we got 11 cuttings, if everything goes well in Arizona. Arizona's actually the hay capital of the United States, believe it or not. A lot of people don't realize that. So, just kind of give you a rundown. I average about $2 million a year with Tractor Supply. We supply their hay in Arizona, New Mexico, partially Texas, just entered into Nevada. We also do service Cal Ranch, which is kind of like similar to a Murdoch's here. I have a myriad of feed stores, private feed stores that I supply. Westworld of Scottsdale, which is a very world-renowned equestrian center. They do Barrett Jackson there. It's a rich man's playground. That's just gives you an idea of the conversations I have in the day and the people I deal with. It's easy. I mean, it seems easy. I mean, unfortunately, I witnessed some teardowns from our community with some of our board members, which is unfortunate. But, and it clearly is a thankless job. You know, I'm willing to put my hat in the ring and I'm willing to give it a whirl and I'm willing to make a difference. So, there we have it.
A job insinuates pay, there's no pay, so we are freely
I'm
giving
aware
our
of that
time to
as
be
well.
demolished.
So, like I said, it's a thankless position in some cases, but I'm okay with that. So, as long as I feel fulfilled and I rest easy at night, then I did a good job. So,
Thank you.
is that it?
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you
Okay,
all for your time and thank you for the consideration.
So our third candidate
Yes.
is not here.
Can I ask you to tell them, I think it's just fascinating, you and I have talked about your business a little bit.
Right.
You told me who two of your biggest clients were?
The Tractor Supply?
No. You said Saudi Arabia and China.
Oh, we used to do a lot of export when I first got involved with Saudi Arabia and China. China takes an obscene amount of hay, so does Saudi Arabia for different reasons. China because of soil contamination, because of acid rain and whatnot. So they can grow the product, but they can't, it's very poor in nutrition and feed value. So they come to the United States for it. Saudi Arabia does it because water. So I actually have, the last few years, strayed away from the export market only because I feel it hurts our own citizens. And all it does is, it's a supply and demand issue. Hay is a commodity, so it trades just like a stock. So one day it's worth something here and one day it's worth the next. Well, if you've got China opening up the floodgates and they're taking everything they can get their hands on and they're paying a lot of money, it makes the hobby even that much more expensive. And there's times where there are people that just let the horses out in the desert. Arizona's got a lot of wild horses, and it's not because they were born there, it's because they were dumped there. It's unfortunate, so now that I've gotten older, a little more established, I have a major voice in the direction of our family's business. There's avenues that I choose to pursue, and there's avenues that I choose to let go and pursue better and I think more fulfilling avenues. And I think who you do business with says a lot about you. So I'm a big proponent of that.
Thank you. Okay, so the next step is, our third candidate is not here. What was this first name? Ryan Mindeman. So we won't hear from him. But what I will entertain is, we will put a motion out there for one of these candidates, and it will be voted on. Will have to be seconded and then voted on, and it has to be a 3-1. If it's a 2-2, it dies and we start over.
I move to nominate Wayne Baker to fill the vacancy on the board.
It doesn't have to be, if it's not, it dies. If it's seconded, then we vote. Okay, we'll go ahead and table that one. That one did not pass. Okay,
Make a motion for Robert Couplet to join the school board for trustee for the 25-26 until the next election.
I'll second. And then we need to take a vote.
Steve,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Colleen,
No.
Lana.
Yes. So the motion passes. We will have to get with you, Mr. Cutlip, at some point when, Elisa Garcia is available to swear you in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
Yes, thank you for.
Well, you know, one thing I'd like to say, you know, I don't know how you feel about it, obviously you said you're not gonna throw wrenches in the streets and whatnot, but regardless of who they chose, it clearly was, they're getting good people. So I can relate to what you said, and you sound like a good man.
It is a good man.
So thank you,
Great.
thank you for caring and offering your knowledge and your experience.
She
I
adjourned.
adjourned,
She
yep.
adjourned.
I adjourned at 8:45.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, we